Welcome to the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, your guide to motorsports sponsorship. Here's your host, Josh Weesey.
Welcome to episode 181 of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, which is powered by 4-Wheel Parts. Today we have Chuck Foreman on the show. He is the founder of Pro Eagle, the jack company. We get into kind of how it came about too, which is pretty neat hearing that story. It's an entrepreneurial story, pretty awesome overall. But first, before we get into the interview, I have a few things I want to cover with you. I want to start with 4-Wheel Parts. You know, September for 4-Wheel Parts is suspension month, and that means they've got savings up to $500 on select lifts. Now, they carry a lot of different lifts. Rubicon Express and ProComp, those are actually 4-Wheel Parts brands. Then there's Fox, Bilstein, Rough Country, Rancho, and there's a lot of others out there. I've got my eyes on a few of them. It's definitely on my list for my Jeep. I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but gosh, I just keep looking at those lifts because they're nice. But either way, check those things out. And then also the new Smitty-built XRC Gen 3 winch is out, or at least it's launched. You can pre-order right now on the website. Go to 4wheelparts.com. It's really cool looking. I'm pretty impressed with it so far. And you can also always apply for a Synchrony car care card with 6 months of promotional financing. That's based on credit approval, obviously, but you know, if you're like me and you throw a lift kit and some wheels and tires and whatnot into your cart, you're like, whew, yeah, might need to finance this bad rider. So that's available. To find out more, you can call 1-800-284-9840, or you can go to 4wheelparts.com. They also got 92 locations around the U.S., so you can swing into one of those anytime. Now, I would love to get your feedback about the show, so that way I can make it as good as possible, bring on amazing guests. One way to do that is through Apple Podcasts ratings and reviews. So if you could head over there, leave a rating and review, that would be great. Some people don't even know how to leave rating and reviews, and I get it. Let me know if you have problems with that. Like, I don't want that to be a barrier. I'll help you get through the whole process. And actually, something I'm learning more and more about is that a lot of people don't even know how to download a podcast. So if you're listening right now on the website, that's great. I mean, that's what a website is there. But you can actually download the podcast right to your phone and stream it, or, you know, like I said, download it and listen to it that way. It's super easy. But you can do it through Google Play app or Apple Podcast app or Stitcher, iHeartRadio. There's all sorts of different ways to listen to it. But yeah, it's pretty funny, hearing more and more about people that are just listening off the website. Like I said, that's great, but it is a little bit easier, honestly, downloading it to your phone. But do it however you want. I'm cool with that. But if you need help, let me know. Josh at sponsoredriderclubpodcast.com. Regardless, subscribe. That way you don't miss upcoming episodes. This show here is brought to you by several awesome companies. AMSOIL, they provide amazing lubrication products, and they're a company that runs on freedom. You can find out more at amsoil.com/rider. SolderWeld, they produce game-changing metal bonding technology, and they're ready to rescue your race. TopThePodium.com, they're experts in motorsport sponsorship and website creation. And then Bold Racing, they're a family desert UTV race team. And then Crash Act Industries, they provide human protection and extreme racing products. I also want to shout out some of our other partners, including MBRP, HMK USA, Studboy Traction, and High Octane Coffee. Now it's time to get into the show, but the next thing I want to cover with you is the High Octane Coffee Marketing Tune-Up. So this is where we bring Joe Sylvester on for just a quick tidbit of advice. You can find out more about him at Joe Sylvester 8 or at High Octane Coffee. And then we'll get into the show with Chuck Foreman.
What's up, guys? Joe Sylvester here with your High Octane Coffee Marketing Tune-Up of the Day. Today I want to talk about sponsor attraction. Sponsor attraction, to me, is a much better tactic than quote-unquote sponsor hunting. You want to build your brand. You want to establish yourself in the racing community and in the marketing realm of things. You know, as a respected individual, as a professional, you don't want to just keep knocking on doors and hoping somebody answers. You want the sponsors to come to you. That is the most ideal situation for you to be in, and it's the most ideal situation for them. Believe it or not, companies do have, you know, people that work for them, or even owners of companies. They take notice on social media. They see what's going on, and they see the brands. They see the people that stand out. Make yourself stand out from the rest. Be very active on social media. Be very active with your press releases. Try to grow your email database. And like I said, build your brand. Make your brand something that a company would be proud to be associated with. And like I said, when they come to you, it's a much better feeling than sitting there all night long sending out 100 emails. I know this from experience, trust me.
Today's show features Chuck Foreman of Pro Eagle, and I think I actually hinted to this in the last episode with Matt Burrows. But either way, like, we're happening right now. It's going down. But I want to know about you, Chuck. I want to know a little bit about yourself. Why don't you kick us off?
Right on. Well, thanks for having me on the show. Like I said, I've been listening to the show for quite a while. I've been following the page on Facebook. Just recently on Instagram. I didn't even know there was an Instagram until a couple months ago. But yeah, I've grown up in and around the automotive industry. My dad raced, and so this is kind of my passion. And there's that saying that says, you'll never work a day in your life if you love what you do. And I love what I do. This is it's been a dream come true for me. So I get to there's been days where I definitely would rather just hang out at the beach, but there's never been a day where I just did not want to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
So. It's been awesome. Like I said, I was born and raised in around off-road racing. My dad was liked drag racing when he was a kid. Was into that stuff, and then went to work at a GMC dealer in Anaheim, California, where the owner of the dealer raced off-road, and it got him into that. And then I was came along a little bit later and just was kind of born and raised into it. So it's been in my blood, and can't get it out.
Oh, that's awesome. So that's how you first kind of got into it, was when you're younger and your dad, which is a common story on the show, right? There's parents get into stuff. That's why I'm trying to force my kids to like the stuff that I like, because maybe they'll do stuff with me later on in life. But so that's cool. It's a good story there, how you got into it. But I want to dive into some details here. Like, if there's anything from the past that we missed, and I also want to know about how you eventually started Pro Eagle. I want to talk about that. How'd you get involved in that? And let's go from there.
Definitely. Yeah. Let's go. Hit me with your good questions here.
I don't know how far back you want to go. I mean, we could go to when you were a kid and you first started getting into motorsports. I mean, what was that like?
Yeah, like I said, my dad raced, so I was born in it, and that's all I ever wanted to do as a kid. I look back and I kind of wish maybe somebody would have told me that, hey, you really can't make a living to being a race car driver, because then I might have tried harder at other things. Although there are some that have been lucky enough to make a living at it. But yeah, that in my mind, that's all I ever wanted to be, was an off-road race car driver. I looked up to people like, Ivan Stewart, Walker Evans, Rod Hall, all those guys were my heroes. The big giant, trucks when they came through and the ground was shaking, that was my thing. So, I had that passion and that drive. As far as, making a paycheck, my first job was at Toys R Us, but my money I earned was to buy my first race truck and to fund racing. And then I graduated high school, went to college right after that, in automotive technology. Got out of college and wanted to be a mechanic, so I was still in the automotive industry. And then decided that a couple years later, I didn't want to go home smelling like diesel fuel and oil and gasoline, every day, and went into sales for the same company I was with. It was a truck leasing company. And I've been in the sales end of it ever since. I sold brand new cars. Then I went to work for Keystone Automotive, which was like an aftermarket parts distributor. And then kind of worked my way into each or individual companies that Keystone was distributing. So my first company that I went to work for was AFE. They kind of courted me and pulled me away from Keystone to go work for them directly. And then kind of moved around. It was always a step up, and I never burnt a bridge when I left. It was, hey, these guys are offering me this, and it's a great opportunity. And every place that I left said, yeah, that's a great opportunity, and we can't compete with that. So go take that next step. So I did, and went to Maxxis Tires. where I was a sales and marketing director for them for the West Coast. And then I had stepped away from racing myself for a while just because I couldn't afford it. And then once I started at Maxxis, I started back in racing. So initially, when I was at Toys R Us, I had a 7S truck. It was my dad's old race truck that he had sold and got out of, and then I found it and bought it back.
Okay.
And when I was a kid and he was racing it, it was a 7S truck, which is kind of lightly modified, fairly stock vehicle. By the time I got it, the classes and the rules had advanced so much that it was a bone stock truck, as the racing world sees it. So I had a license plate and drove it back and forth to work every day, and then prepped it and raced on the weekends. Did that, moved into Class 8, which is a full-size, somewhat unlimited trucks. And then, like I said, took a step away for a while. Maxxis Tires allowed me to make some relationships with different people and different, manufacturers in the industry. And I also came in contact with a guy that my dad had used to race with, help a long time prior to that, named Mike Horner. He had a 7S truck, a Toyota that had been stolen, and he found it, and it was completely stripped to the frame. And he's like, man, I want to get it rebuilt and go racing again. He's like, I have the time and the money to do it, but I don't have the ability to get, sponsors and, to be able to talk to people and that relationship part of it, the professional side of it, if you will. And I'm like, well, I've got that part of it and don't necessarily have the time because I just got married and, so maybe we can make this work. I have shortcomings where you have the extra and you have extra where I have the shortcomings. So, let's make it work. So we did, we rebuilt the truck and then, proceeded to win 3 points championships in a row, I believe. The last year we raced, we were completely undefeated in the Score Series in 7S.
Oh, wow.
And finished every race and every mile of every race. And, but it really gave me an opportunity to, not that I didn't have it before, but to see, holes and things that were missing in the off-road industry, as a whole. And always being a thinker and somewhat of an inventor, I had different ideas and, fast forward from Maxxis, I came to work for a company called Austin International. Austin International, they hired me because they needed somebody that had a broad range of knowledge, everything from engineering to mechanical to design to sales to, all of it. We manufacture products from fifth wheel hitches, weight distribution hitches. We do rock sliders, steel bumpers, and we manufacture jacks, hydraulic products for one of the top brands in the United States, actually 2 of the top brands in the United States. And so they needed somebody that had the ability to talk in a meeting about, fifth wheel hitches and how they worked, as well as, the sales and marketing aspect of it and, managing an accounts and so on and so forth. So I was their guide since they had such a broad range of knowledge since I had so many different jobs in my past, and it just kind of fit. It was just a perfect fit for them and perfect fit for me. Awesome. And then into it a year or so later, we're in meetings and stuff, and I'm trying to bring my, off-road knowledge and background into what I thought would be a great product to one of these companies that we build hydraulic products for, which was basically what the Pro Eagle jack is now. People were taking a Craftsman or Harbor Freight or, fill in the blank, any other brand of jack and bolting on a $250 aluminum skid plate. And they were fabricating an extension so that it worked with their off-road vehicle or lifted vehicle. Then, unfortunately, you've now avoided the warranty from whatever manufacturer that is because you've modified it. And at the end of the day, you take all that expensive stuff off of it that made it, off-road worthy, and it's still just the $50 or $60 kind of disposable jack.
Mm-hmm.
The manufacturers that were making those add-on parts to it had problems because there was multiple factories that were building for these companies, and not all of them followed the same exact dimensions. So if they built a part that bolted on in this location and where this bolt goes through, sometimes it was 5, 6, 7 millimeters off, or not there at all. So, then you bought this $250 part to bolt onto your $50 jack, and it doesn't even work.
Yeah.
So like I said, I took the idea to them, and they said that the off-road market wasn't of interest to them. It was too small. It was a niche market, and, thanks, but no thanks. So we immediately walked out of the meeting and thought, this is something that can go somewhere, and we're not going to let it die with this, and we're just going to do it ourselves. So Pro Eagle was born there.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
That's like a true entrepreneur startup story right there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just there's so many companies start that way. It's interesting too when you look at companies and how many good ideas are turned away or turned down. I mean, for one, companies can't do every idea that comes across their plate, right? They're just not capable of it. And two, sometimes people just let good stuff slip, and they just don't realize what the potential could be. That's why you get these spin-offs like all the time, right? And it's really cool to hear that story. And so I guess in the pre-interview, I joked a little bit about, I said, I got a story, but I'm going to wait to tell it. Well, I'll tell the story now. This is, actually, I might have told this to Matt Burrows last episode too. I'm not sure. But that was so long ago last week. Who knows? I don't even remember that.
Right.
But either way, I bought. I'd always had some form of lifted vehicle for a while, whether it's a leveling kit or a 4-inch lift. I had something, and I mean, like literally, I used to just rig stuff up. I mean, there's a picture that you and I talked about earlier, which hasn't been released yet. But like it made me think of this. But literally, I've always been able to figure something out. But I got my 2015 JK, and I had a 4.5-inch lift on it, and I had to do some simple maintenance. Oh, I was putting new control arms on it, and I go and get my, let's call it what it is, the Harbor Freight jack. Like I got that out, and I'm like, all right, jack it up. And for whatever reason, I thought that I was still added value by pumping it up the full way, and I was like, I'm not even close to anything right now. Like this, what am I gonna do? Of course, I rigged it up. I was probably super unsafe. Luckily, my house is not monitored by OSHA or my OSHA or anything like that, so I was fine. But and the Jeep didn't fall on me or anything. I didn't even have to take the wheels off, so I had some safety. But still, I was like, what? Yeah. Who does this? And I was like, I need a product. This is how I found out. Well, I think I was already Facebook friends with you at the time, but I just didn't make all the connections. But then I was like, oh, Pro Eagle, this thing's pretty cool.
Right.
But yeah, it's amazing how many people out there in the world never actually solve that problem.
Right.
And you got a product that does it. And honestly, so at my past 2 jobs I've been at, and I'm responsible for safety too. So like at work, I don't let anything fly. That's even remotely unsafe. But at home, I'm like, yeah, whatever. But now I'm like, no, I gotta do something different here. But so it's good. So hey, Pro Eagle, that's where Pro Eagle comes in.
Yeah, and you mentioned it too. We, maybe it was a lack of sales pitch on our part or whatever, but we started out in racing. It was just off-road racing. I knew that there was a much bigger picture there, but that's with the core group that I had to get on board first that would basically validate it to the rest of the people. But anyone with any lifted vehicle, or slightly taller than stock, whether it's a Jeep or an SUV or whatever it is, anything that's slightly taller than stock, your stock jack won't cut it. It won't lift it. So the market, started out as, desert racing, but, there's so much larger than that there just isn't a solution. I watch Shark Tank all the time and watch these entrepreneurs and stuff like that and say, I created a category. I created something that never existed before. Mm-hmm. And although ours is a, quote unquote, if you will, a modified jack, it is in its own category. It is, there are people that go, well, why would I ever need that? And then, you see them or talk to them a month later and like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that I needed that. Now I need it, Yeah.
And, so Matt was also telling us he had to sell at least 3 jacks last week from
right.
Matt's episode, but he was saying that they're a lot lighter too, which honestly, so I've always taken my floor jack with me on snowmobile trips just because, trailer pops tires or whatever. I'd rather just have a legit jack underneath it. But they're so heavy. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like 1,500 pounds. I mean, not really, but they're super heavy. And then I'm lifting it in and out of the truck, even with a ramp, putting it in the ramp, like, oh my gosh, this is horrifying. But I heard that these are pretty light.
Yeah, all of ours are aluminum construction. And the thing that makes it much better than anybody else, even though, those other jacks, if it's an aluminum jack, they don't, they're probably way actually a little bit less than ours because of the solid axles and tires. But the solid axles and tires make them move so much easier that they mentally feel, and you think that they're lighter. But they just glide across the floor, and you don't necessarily, even the dirt, then you don't notice how heavy they are. Not to say they're heavy, 40 to 50 pounds, but they just move so much easier. They give you the appearance or the feel of being lighter. So
yeah, if I get my jack, like if I find the smallest pebble on the planet, if it comes even near any one of my wheels, I'm done. It's I got to lift it out of the way. Or I just get mad and like throw something because it just can't get over even a pebble. And then don't even get me started about taking it across the grass somewhere. Like it just might as well should just pick it up at that point.
Right.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. So how long have you been doing that?
Pro Eagle started in late 2012, early 2013.
Oh yeah, that's sweet. You're past the scarier parts of starting a business.
Oh yeah, and the first few years, were scary. It was, I think we did our first off-road expo over here in California in 2013, and it was a jack that didn't have the large wheels. It was just the standard jack with the skid plate and the extension. That's where that started at. And people would walk through and like they would laugh. I mean, they would literally laugh. They say,
"Oh, really?
You were never going to sell this jack. Harbor Freight jack or any other fill in the blank brand is, less than half the cost of this. You're barking up the wrong tree. Sorry, but this is a brand that's going to die tomorrow. And the very next year, I'd see the same exact people, and they're like, all right, I'll take 2. Yes, you were right. The other brand was, less than half, but I purchased 2 or 3 of them in this past year because they'd go out or because the skid plate didn't fit and I had to take it back and find one that did or whatever. At the end of the day, they ended up spending 2 to 3 times more than they would have with my jack. And I offer a 2-year full replacement warranty. So, yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
So then we started to build our, followers from there. So.
Oh, perfect. Well, let's I guess we're already on current state, but like, tell me what you're excited about right now. What are you fired up about?
Yeah, we have 2 brand new jacks that are more lightweight for the smaller vehicles. Since we started, there were 2-ton jacks. And so the number one request had been, a jack that was heavier duty for the larger lifted trucks. And then the second most asked question was, when are you going to have a lighter, smaller version that we can carry on the UTVs? And as the UTV market grows, that question almost leapfrogged over, the heavier weight jack. So we built the 3-ton jack, launched it. late 2017 or early 2018, and then moved on to project number 2, which was the lighter weight jacks, which we have now. That'll launch this week, and then we'll have the first ones to be seen at the Sand Sports Super Show this coming weekend. But one is like a fire extinguisher size jack. It comes in a case with a larger base, if you're going to use it in soft dirt or sand, a little hose and a regulator that you screw in a CO2 bottle, similar to like a paintball gun, or what would be used like for mountain bikes to fill the tire, so that kind of stuff. So they run about $1.50 a piece. And depending on how high you need to go with the jack, you can use that same CO2 canister 2 to 3 times. You screw it in there, you release the CO2, put it underneath the car where you need it, and it lifts it up. So
I wish that I had a super secret image available to me right now to see, to really picture this.
I might have to accommodate that for you.
Keep going.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I said, it comes with a case, and all of that stuff is in the case. If somebody wants to carry it in the back of the UTV or throw it under the seat, it's all there, all contained. Or we offer it like a quick release, similar to like a fire extinguisher mount on the roll cage. So you can carry it on the roll cage if you don't, say if it's a race car, if you're limited on space and you don't have room for that case, then you can mount it on the roll bar. And then, so that's the first one. And then we have a smaller 1.5 ton jack. It's basically just a miniature version of our 3-ton jack. That right now weighs in at about 37, 38 pounds. I think it's still just a tad bit heavy to carry in a UTV.
Yeah.
But, they've been asking for a smaller jack that's specific for a UTV. Hey, I've already got one that's, my garage for my Super Duty. I just need one for that will lift, the car that I can throw in the trailer when I go out to the dunes or whatever. So now this one will fill that void as well. One other feature that people often ask us for is a fast pump jack. Okay. We get compared to the other brands because they go up quicker than ours. Well, my comeback is always like, okay, well, with the extension on there, you start off 8 to 10 inches taller than they are already.
Right.
And then our jack, if it says it's a 2-ton or if it says it's a 3-ton, it will lift that and then some. What a lot of people don't understand is kind of like a ring and pinion set, that the faster it goes up, the more effort it takes, and also the less weight it will lift. So there's a range that you need to be in to be rated at a 2-ton, and we far exceed it. Whereas if the other brands say that it's a 2-ton, they can become way below it and still offer a fast pump, but still rate it as a 2-ton jack. So
okay.
We often get called out, okay, well, I need a 3-ton jack to lift my Tacoma. And I'm like, why? Why on earth would you think that?
Right.
Oh, well, because I had brand X and, it was a 3-ton and it wouldn't lift it. I'm like, well, okay, well, understandable, but ours will.
Right.
Our 3-ton is 10 pounds heavier than the 2-ton. You don't need that jack for the Tacoma,
Right.
So, oh, okay, well, thank you. And I just saved you $60. So
yeah, there you go. Oh, perfect. Yeah. You would do a 2-ton for a mid-size truck?
Yeah, definitely. That's one thing we've been lacking on is kind of like a fitment guide. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend a 3-ton for anything less than, a fully loaded Super Duty, on 37s kind of things.
Right.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Anything less than that would be a 2-ton. I even had a conversation today with a guy on Instagram, was asking about the 3-ton, and I noticed that he drove a Forerunner. I'm like, well, why are you asking about the 3-ton? And the same thing,
Yeah.
Oh, because, that's what I need to be able to lift the car. I'm like, no, our new 1.5-ton will lift your Forerunner. So,
right.
It's just we're still reaching people that just need to be educated is all. That's all.
Yeah. No, that's good. I'm all about that. That's kind of why this show exists. Well, hey, I'm going to take a quick minute right now. We're going to break to thank the sponsors for this podcast, and then we'll come back to the main event.
Right on.
Safety is our overriding priority. I hear it all the time, but I have to ask myself, is it though? is that the first thing we think of? Is that the first thing you think of? Over the past couple of years, we've seen the performance of production UTVs increase, somewhere around 350%. That means these machines give us a lot more opportunity to have fun and win races, but it also, unfortunately, gives us new opportunities to crash. And that's why we have partnered with Crash Addict Industries. The owner, Travis Pointer, became very accustomed to crashing early in his career. He saw it as inevitable, and he set out to make the process safer. With a passion for racing, welding, and engineering, Crash Addict Industries now produces full cage and other protection systems intentionally designed to protect you during an accident on the track. They also offer a line of human protection products through their vendors. Do this for me at this point. If you're racing with a stock cage right now, please go check out CrashAddict.com and at least just see what they have to offer. Even if you choose to go with a different company, please make safety your overriding priority. When I stop to think about all the things that make motorsports awesome, I think of camaraderie, I think of speed, I think of friendship, and I also think of family. And it's hard to go through all of those elements without thinking of Bold Racing. Now, Bold Racing and Jimmy Moore, the owner, has been a long-time supporter of this show and Impact Fuel overall. Jimmy Moore is a desert racer that also has a ton of experience with suspension, UTV axles, and general go-fastness. I would love for you to head over to their Facebook page, Bold Racing, or their Instagram page, bold.racing, and just show them some love. Let them know that you support their race program and you want to see them continue to promote the amazing elements of motorsports.
Hey guys, George Hamill here to talk about SolderWeld's new off-road repair kit. If you're a racer of any type or an off-road enthusiast like myself, you're going to want to take a close look at this product that bonds metal on the spot. SolderWeld has combined some of their most elite products into one small kit that fits perfectly under your seat or strapped to a roll cage and allows you to make some insane fixes anywhere you go. How many of us have been in a race or out on the trail and got a rock chip in a radiator or brake line? We have seen a top-tier desert race team at the 2019 Min 400 taken out by a simple rock to the radiator. If they had an off-road repair kit on board, they could have been back up and running in just minutes. The kit includes everything you need to work on dirty aluminum, stainless steel, copper, and many other metals. SolderWeld's cutting-edge technology allows you to make these fixes with extremely low heat and incredibly high tensile strength, leaving you a lasting fix every time. Don't be that guy broke down on the side of the trail. Get your off-road repair kit today, and your friends will thank you.
Let's talk about AMSOIL. Maybe you've seen them at Sturgis or the AMSOIL Championship Snowcross Series, maybe your local track. Maybe you heard about them on this show. They are all over the power sports world, and here is why they get it. They're a bunch of gearheads just like you and I. They're riders, they're racers, just like us. They're also chemists and engineers, which means they're good at making synthetic oil. That's what we want them to be good at. Their time at the track and on the streets, it gives them that first-hand knowledge of how tough equipment is on oil. Extreme heat, increased stress, high RPM riding, it all works against you and your ride to basically get you sidelined. But no worry, AMSOIL handcrafts synthetic lubricants that fight wear and resist extreme heat so that you can get the most power and best performance out of whatever it is that you ride. Visit amsoil.com/rider for more details and check out their full line of products for anything that you ride. Two questions I get continuously about this show and about sponsorship is, do I need my own website and do I need a resume? The answer is, in my opinion, yes to both, and that's why we partner with TopThePodium.com. Now, if you want to see an example of what a professional website and what a professional resume looks like, you gotta check out TopThePodium.com. They did my website. The Sponsored Rider Club podcast website is sponsoredriderclubpodcast.com. That was created by Jeff Vanistall of topthepodium.com. I think it's awesome. I get a lot of good feedback about it. And there's a number of other websites out there that Jeff has produced that are just phenomenal. So I think it's important in this world of social media where you have control of your content. That's what a website does. It gives you full control. We don't know what Facebook's going to do sometimes. We don't know what Instagram's going to do. We don't know what Twitter's going to do. So if we don't have that central location to direct people and house our content, there is some risk that we incur. So I strongly recommend getting a website, talking to topthepodium.com. And then the resume, again, is massive. And if you want to stand out, get it done professionally. And honestly, it is one of the best ways to step up your game and present yourself in the best way possible. All right, welcome back, everybody. We are now at the main event. That's where we talk about sponsorship tactics and strategies. So with Pro Eagle, Chuck, you're sponsoring riders and racers out there. I also call them brand ambassadors. You can call them influencers, whatever it is. But what I want to ask you right now and get your kind of perspective on is, what are the characteristics that make a great brand ambassador? What is it that you look for? What are the things that our listeners can kind of take note of and should be paying attention to?
I'm always drawn to people that are humble, people that overperform and underpromise kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But people that see the bigger picture is the most appealing to me. Somebody that's tearing up the racetrack and winning every race or whatever. Sure, everybody wants to be involved with them, as do I. But people that see the bigger picture of, okay, well, it doesn't end at the racetrack. There's so much more. Whether it's, an event at the local park that's, sponsored by, the Toys for Tots or something like that, or whether it's Off-Road Expo or SEMA or, videos or social media. It's just so big now what, you have to do or should do or could do as a race team to promote your sponsors and the people that are helping you, so much more beyond the racetrack. So people that see that bigger picture are the people that I gravitate towards.
Mm-hmm. So how do you even notice? What's your litmus test to see if someone understands the bigger picture or, that they see that there's more to it than just the race?
When I started out in 2013 or so, I couldn't necessarily be picky. I had to work with people that were willing to work with me, and I was new and they never heard of me and, were willing to take a chance. Now, and not to, toot my own horn or anything like that, but we get, 6 to 10 sponsorship requests a week.
Mm-hmm.
So I can afford to be a little bit more picky now. I had to earn that. I had to put in our time. It didn't just come overnight. And that was all off of effort. But, now, and being as involved as I am in motorsports and having connections with other companies, I can reach out and ask somebody at, say, Raceline Wheels or BF Goodrich Tires or whatever it is, hey, have you heard of so-and-so? You work with them. How's that, going for you?
Mm-hmm.
But I run our social media page. I'm friends with a lot of people. And just like a job interview should go, I check, I see what they're posting about. I watch what they're talking about. I, pay attention to more than just, the resume that they sent me that said, hey, we won the point championship last year and we got third at this race, blah, blah, blah. I look a little bit deeper than that. And again, I'm not looking for somebody that's blowing up the racetrack and, winning every single race, although that's fantastic. It's, what they're doing outside of that, or even, how they talk about their family and kids and, whatever. If I can tell that their priorities are, slightly more towards, hey, I missed this race because, I had to take care of this or that, family wise.
Mm-hmm.
I respect that a little bit more than, I'm not saying that anybody would miss this important family thing to go racing, but, I just pay attention to, the type of person that they are, and I'm looking for good people. So.
Yeah. One thing I've brought up on here before is that sponsors are looking for, well, first off, when we say sponsors, there's always a person behind, the business name that's making the decisions about sponsorship. So there's a human being.
Right.
And those human beings are looking for other human beings that share their same values. Typically, it's aligning with the business values, but typically people only work places, or at least workplaces for extended periods of time, if the values of the business align with their personal values too. So it all starts making sense. Right. And I definitely get that picture on this story too, on the show where people say, I look for a person that aligns with some of my values. Like if your value was, let's party like a rock star day in, day out, the single life, and you might not make the same call. You might be looking for someone else with a different profile, right?
Very true.
But in your case, some of the things that you probably value, which you just mentioned there, you're like, okay, I'm trying to find that in somebody else because that's who I can relate to,
right?
And that's who I want to get behind. So I think that's cool. It's interesting when people are talking about on the show how they select riders and racers to sponsor, and I think back to how I select guests for the show. And it's a similar process. Now it's lower stakes for me because I'm not, making a financial investment with somebody who comes on the show. But I sometimes people reach out to me to come on the show, and I'll just quickly go through. If I can find their Facebook, great. If I can find LinkedIn, great. If I can find Instagram, great. Whatever things I can find about them, I just kind of quick glance through, and similar to what you just mentioned, if I see a bunch of weird stuff that I don't really appreciate, or I'm just for people listening, like if you're posting stuff that's even vaguely like talking about special needs people or racism or like extreme crazy politics or anything that's going to be like one that doesn't align with my values or could be divisive to my audience, like I'm passing up on it because I that's not where I'm at.
Right.
But if I start seeing things kind of like what you're talking about, okay, there's a family balance, or because I see people with a lot of followers, but I don't like what they're posting. I'll go towards whatever ones feel right. Like I wish I could tell people I had a formula. You must have, greater than 10,000 followers, and you must have. No, I don't do that. And most sponsors don't either, honestly. They don't have like a formula. Otherwise I'd be teaching everybody that formula, and then I just sell that somehow instead of doing a show every day, every week about it. But either way, so that's good stuff.
I think what it kind of comes down to for me, I find myself sponsoring and helping kids. The guys that are running the 170s and, the trophy carts and whatever it is, I find myself sponsoring them more often, or it sounds weird, but people that come and ask that are more, I don't want to say childlike, but they need it, they need help,
Oh, right.
They can afford to go buy, somebody that can afford to go buy, these $2,000 air jacks and all that stuff. I don't necessarily want to be involved with them, although it'd be great, because they don't need what I have.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the kids, mom and dad are paying the bills, and, they see that and they appreciate every time that they get to go out and go race. But, they know that, hey, shoot, this jack is going to help us, and it's going to be an asset to what we're doing, and it's going to make our life easier. And, the people that have that same mentality are the people that I normally talk to,
mm-hmm.
or help or work with, or, and sponsor.
Yeah, no, I think that makes really good sense.
Well,
good. Well, I kind of want to talk a little bit more about maybe some sponsorship examples, like to see if there's a time where you had something really unique or really effective, or maybe something memorable that a sponsored rider or racer did to promote Pro Eagle. Like, can you think of anything?
Yeah, there's been a lot. I mean, shoot, we work with a lot of teams, and I've been involved with a lot of them. From Matt Burrows, and he invited me onto his team with Open Arms, and we got to go down to Baja, and he treats his crew that are all volunteers like they're invaluable, and so does just about every other team. So Matt, Lucretia Barrier, she always goes above and beyond. Adrian Oriana, I love that guy. I love working with him. He's out there busting his butt, and he'll, if he knows that, hey, there's a show next week, and he just finished Vegas to Reno, and he's got a week turnaround to get the car ready, he's up. He works a 12 to 14 hour day job, and he goes home and he works on the car to get it torn down and rebuilt. Just sit at the show and be able to talk to people and smile and sign autographs, because he knows that that's what his sponsors like and want to see. So, but not just him. I mean, there's a lot of people that we work with that have gone above and beyond. Shoot, I wish I could think of, something funny or, in particular that's happened, but there's been so many, there's just a lot of really great teams that we help and work with. So it's been an awesome experience for me, working with all these teams. So, yeah.
So on the flip side of that, I always like to ask the question to folks, like, if there's something where it didn't go well, a time when sponsorship didn't go as planned. Now, I know you had shared one on Sponsored Rider Club Facebook group recently, which I thought was pretty cool. So I appreciate you doing that and utilizing that group. And for anybody listening right now, that's the spot where you can go and ask questions, or just kind of scroll through and see what other people have put on there. But either way, I don't know what examples you got for things that didn't go as planned.
Yeah, so I'll talk about that one in a second. We've had a lot of others. Again, when we were first starting, I was hungry to work with just about anybody, and anybody that kind of looked like an influencer, through social media. Social media is such a huge part of what we do and helps build our brand. If it was, somebody that's got, like you said, 100,000 followers, okay, well, this is going to cost me, a free jack and shipping to get it there, but, he's going to help me reach his 100,000 followers. So there was 2 to 3 to maybe 5 of those ones that just, took the product and ran and never heard from again. So
my gosh, nothing, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. So those kind of went very poorly. And what I mentioned on the Facebook page, it wasn't, anything that went bad. It was just the first time I had been, approached with this question of, I sponsor a number of racers, and then I also pay contingency in Best in the Desert.
Yep.
And the racer had, received free product, and then also signed up for contingency, and then wanted to collect his contingency winnings on top of what I had sponsored him. And I didn't have any opinion one way or the other, which is what, if he was right or wrong. Because
right.
I'd never been approached by that before. I'd never been asked the question. So usually if they are sponsored by me and they got free product, they're running the decal, then, they might check the box as far as, that they ran the product for contingency, but they never really, tried to collect after they won. So, and again, not saying that one was right and one was wrong. It just was, first time I had been approached like that. So it was like, well, shoot, let me find out what everybody else thinks.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the like the snowmobilers and stuff that might be listening right now. They might not know what that means, like the backcountry riders and stuff. So could you just explain a little bit of what the contingency is with the whole, racing programs?
Yeah, sure. So us as a company or brand manufacturer, we tell the racing organization that, okay, if someone runs in any particular class, and we can pick from all of them, say, a trophy truck or, whatever team it is or whatever class it is, if they run my product and they run my decal on the side of it, then I will give them a purse if they place first, second, or third, or whatever they say. It could be even fifth. If they run the product, they run the decal, and they place in the position that I want to pay back for, then I owe them whatever it is. So for me, for instance, I place value of, I think it's $400, which is the cost of a jack, and say, if you place first in any one of the classes that I post for, then I will give you $400 worth of product. So basically a free jack. So,
yep.
And for me, coming from racing and coming from the background of watching my dad struggle to finish races and whatever, I have a never give up attitude. That's one of my pet peeves is I see somebody throw in the towel too early. I'm like, don't even talk to me because I'm done with you. Yeah. So I actually post last official finisher, whether they're running my decal or not, they can get product from me.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, the last official finisher of the race overall, not necessarily in each class, but overall the race, the last finisher can still get product from me because, hey, you tried. You got the hard charger award, whatever it was. You didn't give up. You kept on, and you made it to the finish line. So that's what counts. So.
That's neat. I haven't heard of that one before.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I think of the contingency, it always reminds me of in like professional sports where, I watch football. I don't watch a lot of other things, but if someone makes it to the Super Bowl and they win, right, they get like a $2 million bonus. That's kind of the way I think of those things. And in different companies, like you're saying, can specify what they want. And a lot of times that's written into contracts too, right, where someone say, hey, here's your specific contract for this thing. If you place third or better on X number of races, you get this. If you win the championship, you get this. Yeah, so I think it's a pretty cool thing. And it's funny though when you hear. That's why I wanted to bring it up, because it's funny when you hear people talking about it. I don't know if I've ever heard anybody even explain it until just now. It's always been like just things that you piece together and you make sense of it. I almost think I wonder if I should one day do a show just on like all the different intricacies that contingency could offer. But
some of them really help the privateer racers. If maybe you got the extra free jack. For instance, the guy that I was talking about was saying, hey, look, I don't necessarily need more for me because I have enough to work on the car and I have enough for my pits. But my crew are all volunteers. They come out there, they take their vacation time, and they come out and help. So, I don't necessarily want to not ask for another jack from you, but if we won one because we won the race, then I'd love to give it to my guys that took vacation time to come out there because they love using it. So, hey, here's a thank you for coming to help me, and here's a free jack. So, yeah. So, or if it's, shock service from a shock absorber company or a tire liner, whatever it is, if it helps you to fund the next race, then it's valuable.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Very good point.
Yeah.
I don't know, what other lessons learned do you have? Things you've seen over the years that you kind of want to share with the audience.
Oh man, I don't know. Just hard work pays off. Yeah. It's I don't know. We've had a lot of funny stories and things that have happened to us out there, but again, it was a lot of work to get here. I always tell the story of, how we went to our first, the SEMA show or Off-Road Expo or whatever, and I'd show up at the show 2 hours before the show would open, and I'd stay an hour late, and I'd have one jack that I would push around the show. I'd find an awesome looking truck. I'd put the jack underneath it, jack it up, stand back, and snap a picture.
Yeah.
I'd lower it down, and I'd go to the next truck.
That's awesome.
And then a couple months later, people were like, man, you keep posting all these vehicles that were at, SEMA or at Off-Road Expo that, had your jacks on it. You guys are blowing up. You're everywhere. You had that show on lockdown. And I'm like, okay, great. I'm glad you think that,
Right.
It gave me content for social media for the next month.
Heck yeah.
But it gave you the impression that every jack or every truck at that show had a Pro Eagle jack on it. And that's great, but it didn't. It was that one that I pushed around,
That's awesome.
So yeah, you could use that same, the same work ethic as far as getting sponsors. It's out there talking to the people and pounding the pavement. One of the things that I wanted to talk about was the age of social media has kind of made it easy for people to just flat out ask you without putting in any work or effort or whatever. And like I said, I get hit up 6 to 10 times a week, and 6 to 10 of those are usually through social media, through Instagram. And, it's like they go into their full pitch, and like, hey, I've got, 100,000 followers, you should sponsor me. Or I've got, I won this last race, you should sponsor me. And, people have lost the art of, if you want to call it, I don't know what you'd call it, but they've just lost that ability to pick up the phone and go, hey, I'm so-and-so and I race blah, blah, blah. And, this is what I can do and help you. And, I can't tell you the last time that somebody picked up the phone and called just to talk to me, or stopped at his trade show and said, hey, I know you're busy and, you're going to get, 50 of me coming around here to talk to you today, but here's my card and my information. If I can get yours, maybe I can follow up with you when you're, less busy. Stuff like that just goes miles with me, so use that when you're looking for sponsorship, use those tactics to gain the upper hand on what the other guys have, because most of them are just hitting me up through Instagram going, hey, you should sponsor me.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think about this show sometimes and how I get the opportunity to build a relationship at, hour at a time on these phone calls, but it's pretty rare for people to get on the phone for like an hour, and just kind of chat. But so I've almost cheated on accident most of these times, because the majority of the sponsors that I have that support this show were on the show. You know what I mean? Like, not knowing that was going to happen, I build that relationship of like, okay. And then and a lot of times you and I, but we talked for 7 minutes even before we started recording. We'll probably talk for a couple minutes afterwards. And, that happens though, like, in natural phone conversations. It happens when you walk up, but it doesn't always happen in direct messages on Instagram and Facebook and whatnot. That doesn't mean, like, I did a whole show on this, right? I think I call it Slide into My DMs. I got a whole bunch of do's and don'ts on there. It doesn't mean don't use that platform, because I think it's very valuable, but there's just something to hear in somebody's voice. I mean, obviously, if you can get face-to-face, that's the best. But you get a lot better sense of who they are. And it's that's definitely the right way to do it. I know it's tough. Everybody's overcommitted nowadays. They got a million things they got to do, and you can do a few more things if you message somebody here, then message somebody else there, then message somebody there, versus one phone call with each person. I get it.
Yeah.
But if you really want to invest in a company or in a relationship, you got to do that. It's just, that's all there's to it right now.
Yeah. There's so much of our personal lives. I joke with people all the time and say, before you pick up the phone and call me, think about the fact, can this be sent in a text? So I'm busy and I don't necessarily have the time to get on the phone, but that's a personal conversation between two people that if it's somebody that you don't know, then it's just a different level. It's you got to break the ice first with that phone call, and then you can send text messages. So.
That's exactly right. It's kind of weird how that happens, but I recommend to people, if you want to get that conversation started on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, some sort of direct message, that's cool. Do that, and just like you said, hey, would you have time to chat? I've even shared on the show before, if you want like a scheduling tool. I mean, I use Acuity scheduling for all my podcast interviews. You could use that It's a free tool. You could use that for just normal chats. Like you could call it sponsorship strategy session or get to know me session or whatever the heck you want to call it. Put together a schedule with available times, send a link out. Hey, call me whenever. Any of these times will work. Just click on it, sign up for a spot. I'll call you, whatever. You can set all that up and really make it easier because, most people who listen to the show, they do have the full-time job. They're usually racing or doing something on the weekends or at night. It gets tough. It gets tough to keep up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I completely understand that. And I very much agree with you that, break the ice there and then a conversation is warranted after that.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Well, you know what else is perfect? This time to start wrapping things up. I always try to come up with clever little one-liner transitions at the end, and then I always end up making some awkward reference to the transitions. I should just do the transition and then be done. But hey, what fun would that be? But no, right. We'll kind of wrap things up right now. I mean, if there was one thing that you wanted listeners to take away from the show, if they forgot everything else, what would that one thing be?
Success takes a lot of effort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Success in racing, success in, your life, success in what we've done, everything, whether it's, looking for a sponsorship, whether it is building a company or a brand, whether it is winning a championship, it takes a ton of effort. And, so much of today's society is if it doesn't come easy, then it's just not worth doing. Mm-hmm. And, what we do is not easy. It takes a lot of effort. So put in the time and you'll get there. I never thought that I'd be here. Not that I consider myself, just hugely successful. But, I'm at the level I'm at because of lots of effort, and I'm still putting in effort to get into the next level. Mm-hmm. So whatever it is you do, yourself and, everybody, you try hard and you'll get there.
Definitely. Well, what's the best way for people listening to connect with you?
Well, like we mentioned, a phone call goes a long way.
Yeah.
Definitely. I run all of the social media pages. So, anything through Instagram, whether it's Facebook or, send an inquiry off our website, all of them come to me. And I answer all of them personally. So, any of those things or call the office, then I'm usually there 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, if I'm not at some event or show somewhere else.
Awesome. And the Instagram handle is @pro_eagle.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure on Facebook you can find it just by typing in Pro Eagle.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. When we started the company, or when I started the Instagram account, some karate place or something like that was called Pro Eagle had already had @Pro Eagle. So I had to go @Pro_Eagle. So
yeah, there you go.
Yeah. It's funny how those things work, but
yeah, it is. I was thinking back to when I started this company, because people might not know this, but the podcast, my parent company is Impact Fuel, and when I remember I was coming up with names for that, I found I had 20 variations that I wanted to try, and it was like. I'd find the goofiest things when I'd Google it or look it up on Instagram. Like, oh my gosh, well, who does this?
Right.
And I'm like, okay. And I found that part of what actually led to my name being Impact Fuel was I couldn't find that exact thing anywhere else. I was like, done. Done.
Yeah.
But no, that's good. Well, hey, Chuck, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat tonight. This is a blast. I feel like we learned a ton of good stuff. I mean, we got into contingency. We hit, good sponsorship stuff. Maybe not quite as good sponsorship stuff. Yeah, awesome. But we got to end things. So I'm going to leave it with this. Have fun and ride safe.
Right on.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, which is powered by 4-Wheel Parts. I want you to make sure that you are subscribed to this show, whether it's on iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss upcoming guests and upcoming episodes. And then follow us on social media. We're on all of the platforms. You can find out the most content, though, on our Facebook page. That's where we do our live videos. To get some insider access to upcoming guests, you can also check out the Sponsored Rider Club on Facebook. It is a support network where you can ask questions about best practices and get feedback from our audience. A special thanks goes out to our sponsors, 4Wheel Parts, AMSOIL, SolderWeld, Bold Racing, TopThePodium.com, and Crash Addict Industries. And I also want to shout out some of our other partners, MBRP, HMK USA, Studboy Traction, and High Octane Coffee. I look forward to serving you again next week. Until then, have fun and ride safe.